Hello, everybody. Today we're going to take a look at some more political shifts. This time it's going to be 2018 to 2022 in the U.S. House. This will be for the total popular vote for each state. And I understand that some states have districts where there were unopposed candidates or independent candidates. There's not a lot I can do about that. I'm just going to take the statewide data and compare it for these 2 years. They're both midterms. 2018 was a blue wave. 2022 was kind of an even year, but there's going to be a lot of red shifts since 4 years earlier. So I've made my spreadsheet here. In the first column, we have the states, followed by the 2018 Democratic vote, followed by the 2018 Republican vote. Next to that is the 2022 Democratic vote, and then the 2022 Republican vote. Next, we have the Democratic shifts between those 2 years, followed by the Republican shifts. And finally, the last column is going to be the net change between the two states between these two elections. And I have my usual shading here. 10 or more point shifts are going to be the darkest red and the darkest blues. The lightest colors, those are going to be under 5-point shifts. And one other note to mention is I mostly just took this data from Wikipedia. It's not as easy as it sounds to get the statewide popular vote. I see data sometimes that doesn't match up. It's off by a couple of points. So it might not be perfect. It's possible there's a mistake in here. But for the most part, this should be close to accurate. So let's get started here in Alabama. 2018, the Democratic vote statewide was 40.9, Republican vote 50.8. Jump ahead, 4 years later, Democratic vote sank to 23.7, Republican vote increased to 70.1. That's a net loss of 17.2 for the Democrats, a net gain of 11.3, and a total net change of 28.5 points in favor of the Republicans. Again, some of these districts either had an independent candidate or they were unopposed, and that could skew the results. But now we know how this works, so let's move along to Alaska. That, I have in italics there, that was an independent candidate in 2018. And now with the ranked choice voting, the Democrats were able to flip and pick that seat up, and that actually shifted in the opposite direction of Alabama. That went 16.6 toward the Democrats, and that was the biggest shift of all the states toward the Democrats. So let's move on to Arizona. That went 15 points toward the Republicans. Arkansas went 9 points. California went 6 points. Colorado went back toward the Democrats by a small 2.3%. Connecticut went 8.3 toward the right. Delaware went 16.4. Florida went 13.4. Georgia curiously had no net change. Hawaii lurched a big 17.2 toward the right. Idaho also toward the right by 9.8. Illinois, same direction by 9.4. Indiana, double digits, 10.1 toward the Republicans. Iowa as well by 16.4. Kansas, smaller shift there, 5% toward the GOP. Kentucky got 11 points redder. Louisiana even redder by 20.7. Maine had a mild shift back toward the Democrats by 1.4. Maryland went toward the Republicans by 2.9. Massachusetts had a big jump there, 18.8 toward the Republicans. Michigan went toward the right by 5.4. Minnesota as well by 9.4. Mississippi, big shift there, 21.2 toward the Republicans. Same direction with Missouri by 8.3, as well as Montana by 14.1. Nebraska got redder by a smaller margin of 3.4. Nevada also by 8.8. New Hampshire went toward the right, but only by 1%. New Jersey, same direction by 11.4. New Mexico as well by 9.9. And look at New York, huge red shift there by 24.3. North Carolina, small red shift, 2.3. North Dakota actually had no net change there. And again, 2022 had an independent candidate instead of a Democrat, so keep that in mind. The rest of these are all shifts toward the Republicans. First is Ohio by 7.5, Oklahoma by 9.7, Oregon 11.1, Pennsylvania 15.4, Rhode Island 15.7, South Carolina by 23.7, South Dakota, that had the biggest shift of all, and that went 30.5 toward the Republicans. But again, the runner-up there was a Libertarian candidate, not a Democrat. Tennessee 10.2, Texas 16.7, Utah 7.7, Vermont 9.6, Virginia 11%, Washington 11.6, West Virginia 16.7, Wisconsin a big 23%, and finally the last state is Wyoming, that went an even 10% away from the Democrats and toward the Republicans. So those are all the states and all the shifts, and as always we could do one more thing with this data and apply it to a map to help visualize the changes. Here it is. It's the same basic shading. The darkest colors are 10 or more point shifts. The very lightest colors, those are under 1 point shifts. Those will be the tilt margins. There's not a lot of them. And we have 4 levels of shading. Alaska was the best for the Democrats. A lot of that is due to the ranked choice voting playing a big factor. Other than that, there's few bright spots for the Democrats, but again, that is because we're going from a blue wave year of 2018 to 2022 which was a red tilting year, but nothing overwhelming. So these are the two most recent midterms we had. This was a little difficult to compile this data, but I tried to do the best that I could. I even have the congressional shifts for Nebraska and Maine. It's interesting there. In Maine's first, that's the blue district, but it got slightly redder. And the second district, that's the redder district, but that got bluer. North Dakota and Georgia, both had no change there. Other than that, this is a great looking map if you're a Republican. And that's what happens. The better you do in one election, that means you're more likely to drop off pretty hard on the following election. And that's pretty much what happened this time. So these are the shifts. I've already done the shifts for 2020 to 2022 in the U.S. House. This time it was going back 2 more years to compare the 2 most recent midterms. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of the shifts in any of these states? Let me know your thoughts down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.